That's my thing. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Give them a round of applause. Man, I won't have to preach much in youth with how good these kids speak, huh? Amen. Hey, the reason I wanted to do that, it's not just to be like, camp was great, but I want us to hear that the Lord's moving. And what we need to recognize is if the Lord's doing it in someone else's life, he can do it in yours. And if the Lord's bringing breakthrough in their life, he can bring breakthrough in your situation. And so today, I kind of want to jump right in. You know, every summer we try to come up with a theme that we'll go into the summer and maybe continue into the fall. And as I was seeking the Lord, last year we did boot camp, and so we just did a bunch of crazy stuff like they're in boot camp. But this year I felt like the Lord gave me the word equip. And I heard equip, and I said, what do you mean? God, I need you to expound because I think I understand. But the Lord showed me that he was wanting to equip this generation. He wants to equip this church to be able to take a stand for the things of God. He wants to equip this church to be able to go into school and make a difference. He wants to equip this church to be able to go into the workplace and see change and not just be spectators, but be involved. He wants to equip us. And as I was thinking about it, we started going through the armor of God, and we're not necessarily going to go through that today, but I started talking to the students about this. When you accept God into your heart, you're accepted into the kingdom. You're grafted into his kingdom. You're a son and daughter of Christ. Everything that the Bible says that he paid for and it has for you is for you once you accept him into your heart. But the other part is he's drafted you into his army. And so he's waiting for you to be equipped to begin to go out and make a difference. We don't accept God into our heart and say, okay, now I'm going to sit on the bench and spectate what's happening. I'm going to wag my finger and say, no, this is bad. Oh my gosh, why is this happening? No, we accept God into our heart so that way he can begin to move through us and begin to impact the people around us. And so I started to talk about spiritual warfare, and a lot of the students have no comprehension that this is a thing, but it's reality. And so we're seeing students struggling with spiritual warfare all over the world. In Ephesians 6, it puts it like this. This is in the New Living Translation. A final word, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that way you will be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in the dark world, and against evil spirits in heavenly places. If you look around today, if you flip the television on to a news channel today, if you get on social media, I'm sorry if you do, and you see what's happening today, I think you can agree there's an attack happening on this world. I think you can agree that we were seeing depression at an all-time high. Suicide hasn't been this high since 2014. We're seeing young people, we're seeing the church struggling with depression and anxiety at levels that are just almost like you can't comprehend it. And so we got to recognize we're under attack. We got to recognize, yes, the devil's a defeated foe, but there's action for us to take. And there's things we need to do. We need to begin to stand because the Bible tells us that Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And so sometimes there's people who don't know any of this. There's people out here who aren't in God's kingdom. There's people that we encounter every day and they're just under attack and they're waiting for someone to help. They're waiting for someone to step in and say, no, you don't have to stay like this. No, this isn't the end of your story. No, there's so much more for you. But nothing will happen until the church begins to take a stand. Until the church recognizes that they have a responsibility to continue to not just love people, but show them that God has so much more. God wants to take them through to the other side. And so today, I want to jump into a story in the Bible. And it's about someone who was just at those odds. There's a decision to be made. Do I step up? Do I take a stand? Am I safe where I am? Is it comfortable? Is it up to me? Do I really have to be the one who pulls the trigger? Or maybe it'll be someone else. And we're going to jump into Esther today. And if you've never read Esther, let me just kind of quickly paraphrase the story up to the point that we're going to be on today. But the Jewish people were taken into exile. And Esther begins talking about King Xerxes, which was the king of Persia at that time. And he's having a giant banquet. He has all these people. He told everyone, hey, you can drink as much as you want. He's showing off all his splendor. And at the end of a 180-day party, he's like, hey, I know how to make this even better. We're going to have a second party. And I want you to get my queen. And I want to show off how beautiful my queen is. And I'm going to, yep, I got this, but I also got that, okay? And he goes and he commands for the queen to be brought before his party members. These are his officials, the people in the army. These are his noblemen. And she says no. Man, don't you hate that? Says no. Nope, not today. He's embarrassed. He's furious. He gathers his officials who help him make decisions, and he says, what should I do? What should I do? And they're like, well, if she said no, who's to stop every other woman in the country to say no to their husband? This is what we should do. And they said, let's devour her as queen and start searching for a new one. And so he began to gather all the most beautiful ladies in the land. There's 127 provinces. And among those ladies, there's one woman. She's Jewish. Her mother and father died. Her uncle adopted her. Her name's Esther. And she was brought in, and she had favor with everyone. It says she was beautiful, and she pleased everyone who encountered her. She just had something about her that was different. Her uncle said, hey, I don't want you to tell anyone that you're Jewish descent. Just keep it between us. They don't need to know. And the time goes for her to go before the king. After she already received favor, she already got the best treatments. She was told what to bring before the king, and says the king chose her as the next queen. Her uncle's name was Mordecai, and he heard about this, and so every day what he would do is he'd go and he'd sit by the king's gate to hear how his now daughter is doing. And one day he goes and he hears two eunuchs who are supposed to guard the king's quarters, and they're furious. Like, that darn king, how dare he? We're going to kill him. Let's kill him. All right, this is how we're going to do it. And he hears that. He reports it to Esther. Esther goes, and they find out that they were plotting to assassinate the king and kill him. And it says they wrote down in a book of records, so there's this giant book, wasn't the Bible, there's a book, and they wrote down all the accounts for the king. And sometimes it would be read at night, and sometimes it wouldn't, but Mordecai didn't receive any honor. Here's Mordecai, he's in exile, but he heard about something that was not right. He knew it wasn't right, and he got up and did something about it, even though he had no allegiance to that king. But he decided he was going to take a stand. And I want to jump in Esther chapter 3, verse 1, now that we kind of get the picture of what's going on. I'm going to be in the New Living Translation again here. So it says, sometime later, King Xerxes promoted Haman. Okay, I'm just going to call him Haman. You can read who he's the son of, okay? Over all the other nobles, okay? So here's Haman. He was promoted over all the other nobles, and he was, the king made him the most powerful official in the empire. All the king's officials would bow down before Haman to show him respect wherever he passed by, for the king had commanded it. But Mordecai refused to bow down or show him respect. Then the palace officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, why are you disobeying the king's command? Here's a man who was promoted, and he was demanded that anytime he went by anybody, anyone around the king, anyone around the palace, it was required for you to bow down to him. What you need to know is at that time, the kings of Persia, they wanted to be adored as if they were like a deity. So a lot of times their customs was how they wanted to be honored is they wanted to be almost as honored like they were so powerful that they were your God. And so what they would do is they'd take their closest officials or maybe their buddies, and they'd put that same honorarium, I'll say, they put that same expectation on the people of here's this guy, and he's just about as good as me. He's way better than you, and you need to bow down to him. But if you know anything about the Jewish culture, you don't bow down to things that aren't your God. You don't bow down to things even if they're told they're more powerful, even if it could cost you your life. And so every time Haman would come before Mordecai, he said, I will not bow. He knew what type of person he was. It wasn't like Haman just came out of nowhere. No, he was a regular. Mordecai knew what he stood for, and Mordecai said, as for me and my house, we're not going to bow to you. I'm not going to bow to you. And so this infuriated Haman. But I want to step back to here, because I think there's a lot of things in this culture, in this society, that is challenging us as the church to begin to bow. And if you know about bowing in the Bible, wherever it's referenced, a lot of time when they bowed, it was in conjunction with serving. So the things you bowed to would be the things you'd begin to serve. So I think we're in a culture, and we're in such a part of time in society that things are demanding us to begin to serve it. And if we don't serve it, if we don't line up to it, then we're evil, we're a bigot, we're just hateful, we're judgmental. All these things, you have things like there's so much promiscuity, probably mispronouncing it, but it's okay. In this world, people are sleeping with whoever. The amount of sexual things just thrown at our faces, you see it everywhere you look. Culture is asking us to bow down, get on the same level. You see these movements, things like the LGBTQ community. If you're against it because the Bible says it's a sin, you're a bigot. But you can be against it and not be hateful towards the person. You can be against it and says, my Bible says that that's an abomination, but know what? The Lord died for you too, and he wants relationship. But the reality is it's commanding us to serve it. And if the church isn't careful, we're gonna think that we're just avoiding conflict, but in reality, we're putting down our knee and not speaking what God's asked us to speak. And so it's for us, at such a time as this, just like Mordecai, to say, hey, this might be what everyone else is doing, but as for me and my house, we're drawing the line. As for me and my house, we're gonna stand on what the Bible says. We're gonna stand on what the Bible teaches, because nothing else matters if it's contrary to this. No matter if we're called losers, no matter what they label us as, the reality is we live for one God and one God only. We bow to one God, and sometimes it's things that aren't even things like these cultural movements. Sometimes we bow down to our relationships. Oh man, if I can't talk to her this week, man, I don't know what to do. Man, if I don't have her, I don't know if I have anything. If I don't have him, I'm not good for anything. Since when does your worth come from relationship instead of what God said you are? Sometimes it's our technology. You know, some of these young people, it's like, hey, we're gonna take away your phone for 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. Man, I don't have my phone for a month. What am I gonna do? And our whole source is surrounded by something that we haven't even recognized we've made an idol. Because whatever you love with all your heart, it's an idol. If we got really nitpicky, but we don't have to, but I'm gonna say it, what we give most time to is probably the things we serve the most. So are we giving the most time to what people are saying about others? We're maybe serving gossip. Are we giving time to our entertainment, our devices? Are we serving that? We get the picture? So Haman, going back to Esther now, Haman's just mad. He walked by Mordecai, and he's the only one standing. He said, what the junk? The officials go over and say, hey man, we've talked to him 4 days in a row. And Mordecai's still like, I'm not standing. You wanna know why? I'm a Jew. And that means I'm not bound for anything other than God. And in verse 5 of that same chapter says, when Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or show him respect, he was filled with rage. He had learned of Mordecai's nationality, so he decided it was not enough to just lay hands on Mordecai alone. Instead, he looked for a way to destroy all the Jews throughout the entire empire of Xerxes. Wasn't enough to just get the guy who's being defiant. Now I'm gonna make a statement and come for everything that he loves, everything he represents, everything that could possibly come up against me. And can I tell you, in this hour, we're seeing Satan try to put an attack just like that. Well, if he can't get one of you, I'm going to attack the church as a whole. I'm going to paint them as these things. I'm going to approach the culture and society and say, well, the church says this and you're not accepted, so you should be against the church. But the reality is it's a lie, and he's trying to pervert it just enough so that way it sounds like a truth. Well, Jesus is love, so he should accept me however I'm living, so that's half the truth, but he's also a righteous fire. He expects righteousness. He's not going to stand for sin. Sin separates us from God. So if he wants to be in relationship, he's going to hate the very thing that's getting in the way of us and him. So yeah, Jesus is love, but that's not the whole picture. Yeah, here's a Jewish nation in this time with Esther, and they're bowing down only to God, but that doesn't mean that they're going to rise up and come against the king, but he perverts it just enough to get the king's attention. In verse 8, he says, he approached the king, Xerxes, and said, there is a certain race of people scattered through all the provinces of your empire. And listen, they keep themselves separate from everyone. Their laws are different from those of any other people, and they refuse to obey the laws of the king. So, let me put it to you straight, king. It's not in your interest to let them live. They refuse to live like us, so I think we just kill them. Does that sound familiar? Cancel culture. They refuse to think the way we do, so let's just rat them off. Let's just take out what they have to say, take out who they are as individuals. This one point doesn't line up, so here, not good enough. On to the next. And the king, he's like, oh, wow, well, if that's what you say, yeah, let's do it. Here, go ahead, make a decree. And what happened was Haman made a decree, and he picked a day, and he said, on this day, everyone who is against the Jewish population, in our area, you can slaughter them all. Kill the mothers, kill the kids, kill them all, just get them out. And they put this decree out in all the land. And Esther, here she is, oblivious to what's happening. She's still queen. She's the king's queen, right? So you think she'd hold some weight, but she doesn't know what's going on. Mordecai hears this, and the whole Jewish population, and they begin to get in sackcloth. So they have something they wear around their waist, and they cover their heads with ash, and they're mourning, they're weeping. Lord, how could this happen? They're crying out, and Mordecai goes before. He can't enter the palace like this because he's not wearing clothes, okay? And he can't enter. It says he was prohibited because of what he was wearing, and he tells the eunuch, who was the servant of the king, to go tell Esther what happened. So she hasn't completely heard everything that's happened yet, but in verse 4 of chapter 4, we're in the Holman Christian Standard Bible, verse 4 says, Esther's female servants and her eunuchs came and reported the news to her. And the queen was overcome with fear. She sent clothes for Mordecai to wear so he could take off his sackcloth, but he did not accept them. And when I read this, I was astonished by the statement, the queen was overcome with fear. Because the Bible reassured us that she told nobody her heritage. She kept it secret. So only at this point, only she knew and Mordecai knew that she was of Jewish descent. So she was in the clear. So that's one. Number two, she was in a place that you think she'd have some authority or some hearsay because, queen, come on. You're chosen by the king. So my brain would think, well, here you're in a perfect position. You already have favor with the king. You already have favor in the palace. Surely if you just approach the king and say, hey, maybe we can change this. Maybe there's a better way. Maybe we could do something to save these people. In my brain, that's a no-brainer. No one else is in a better spot for you. But it says she was overcome by fear. And I think she began to think about what could happen. What could go wrong? What if she said the wrong thing? What if she was denied? What if they found out and they killed her? And the truth is she had a truth and a responsibility that could make a difference for a whole group of people. She had something that she could do, something she could say that could change people's lives forever and save them from death. And the reality is, us as a church, we have something that we can share with other people. We have a truth that can save them from eternal damnation. We have truth that can set them free from whatever bondage they're in. And sometimes we're kind of like Esther. And God said, go and preach to the whole world, make my love known to all, right? Paraphrase me. But we're like, oh, but what if they think I'm weird? Or what if they deny me? What if I'm rejected? And so something we started doing this year, because we wanted to evangelize more with the youth group, we started doing something I call Jesus and Milkshakes. And I said, we're never going to see the youth get comfortable sharing their faith if we don't try and help facilitate things. And previously, we'd go on a missions trip, and that was good. But then they'd come home from the missions trip, and they wouldn't know how to do it at their home town. So I said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get together, and we're going to, for an hour before we go out, we're going to role play. And me and the leaders, we're going to act like different people you're going to come across, because we're going to go out and tell people about Jesus. And sometimes we're going to reject you, and sometimes we're going to say you're crazy, and sometimes we're going to make fun of you. But we want to help you navigate what to say in those instances, right? Because yes, they know us. Yes, they're comfortable with us. But the reality is they still have to find what to say, even though they know us, right? And so what we did is for an hour and a half, we would just do a rotation, and each person would be a different person. I'd be Jim, I'd be Larry, I'd be Bob. And maybe I'd be atheist. Maybe I wouldn't believe in the Lord. Maybe I'd be like, oh, yeah, sure, you could pray for me. But the point of it is, if we don't practice it, we'll never do it. If we don't go out and even try, we can't say, oh, Lord, let there be revival, let there be change, but we haven't opened our mouth to make a difference. So we're like, Lord, let's see change, but you do it. Esther, Lord, save my people, but, got me? But the reality is he's saying, no, I'm chosen you for such a time as this. So here, we go out, and it would be amazing to hear the testimony that would come from the youth students. Oh, hey, we got to pray for this person, and hey, we got to pray for this guy, and this was the story, and this person said, like, you're crazy, I don't want you to pray for me. And we laughed about it, and we're drinking our milkshakes, but the thing is, we got to get the pressure off of what happens if we're rejected. We got to get the pressure off of what if we look stupid? How you look isn't more important than someone's eternity in heaven. What you say, or if you stutter, I've messed up 6 words already since I've started preaching. It doesn't matter. What's important is God's word and what he has for us. And so today, I want to encourage you, because here Esther was filled with fear, and she came up with an excuse. This is what she said to her uncle, or father now. She said, all the royal officials and the people of the royal provinces know that one law applies to every man or woman who approaches the king in the inner courtyard and who has not been summoned. The law is the death penalty. Only if the king extends the gold scepter will that person live. And listen, Mordecai, dad, uncle, whatever you want to be called, I have not been summoned to appear before the king for the last 30 days. It's been 30 days. I don't even know if he wants to see me again. I mean, you think if he liked me, maybe he wouldn't wait a month. But you want me to go approach this guy, and it's been 30 days? Not even just approach him. If I approach him and he says, no, I'm dead. That's it. And so when I read this is really what I heard her saying. I can't do it. Hey, listen, I get what's happening, but now is not the right time. I'd like to wait for a better opportunity. I don't think it's not a good opportunity to approach that person. It's been 30 days. I don't know. I don't know what to say. And lastly, what if I get rejected? So she said all this elegant stuff. Well, this is the death penalty. But the reality is she was given an excuse to be the solution to the problem. She's giving an excuse to fit her comfort. And Mordecai, man, this man straight up, he said, verse 13, tell the messenger and reply this to her. Don't think that you will escape the fate of all the Jews because you are in the king's palace. If you keep silent at this time, liberation and deliverance will come to the Jewish people from another place, but you and your father's house will be destroyed. Who knows, perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. In other words, don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself thinking that if you just let it blow over, maybe it will change. Don't fool yourself, there'll be a better time. Don't fool yourself that you can't do this. The reality is, if you want it to be used now, if you want to see change, you're the one who's going to do it. You're the one the Lord's going to use. And after he read her mail, man, he called her out. She said, all right, do this. Fast for 3 days, night and day. And after those 3 days, I'll fast as well. We'll seek the Lord, and I'll go and I'll approach the king. But sometimes we just got to be called out a little bit. Sometimes we need a wake-up call. Hey, stop fooling yourself. We got to stop fooling ourselves thinking that we're going to see change in our community if we're not the one speaking. We got to stop fooling ourselves thinking that God can use us if we never even approach him to be used. We got to stop fooling ourselves that change is going to come from someone else when he's called you for such a time as this. One of the things I try to always, maybe I'm beating them over the head with it in the youth group, but I'm like, you don't got to wait until you're ready. You don't got to wait until you're a certain age or you've spoken this many times. God will use you where you're at. And I know Pastor Emily has said that to the kids too. God will use you where you're at. Don't wait for the older kids. You see someone who needs prayer, you pray for them now. Because it's time for us to begin to stand. We heard a word from the Lord. He said, the time is short. Church, the time is short. Will we stand against the enemy, or will we be on the bench saying, ooh, that's bad? Man, we're going to hell in a handbasket. Or will we take the call and begin to equip ourselves? So what happened? Let me tell the end of the story. After those 3 days, Esther, she went and she approached the king. She wasn't summoned, and she was just standing there. And in that moment, she said, even if I lose my life, nothing's more important than my people and setting them free. She went and he extended his scepter, and long story short, the king honored Mordecai because he found out that he saved his life. Esther saved her people. Haman got hung, he was killed, okay? And what happened is the Lord took what was bad and he turned it for good. He took the day that was to wipe out all the Jews, and he made it into 2 days that the Jews could wipe out everyone who was against them and opposing them. And so the Lord gave them back a part of their land, because the whole point was Haman and Satan was trying to take what was theirs. And so church, the Lord wants to do, and he wants to take what you're struggling with. He wants to take what you've been facing, and he wants to turn it for your good. So I'm going to have some of my volunteers come up, and I'm talking about taking a stand today. And I want you to understand, when I'm saying this, I'm not talking about just standing up in worship or, just doing right when everyone sees me. I'm talking about taking a stand for what God's called you to do. God's called you to win the lost, to make disciples, and he's really put the responsibility when you see someone struggling, he wants you to come help, bring him freedom. So some of you might be like Preston. And so Preston, he's been following the Lord. He's been trying to do everything he said. He's been faithful, and he's been standing. And he's been standing for a long time. The Lord's been using him. But as life has gone on, life things have happened. And maybe he lost a loved one, and it began to weigh him down. And so he was still standing, but he experienced loss. One of you guys can come up. He's experiencing loss, and it's tough. It's tough for him to walk through. It's a weight that he's beginning to carry. He's saying, Lord, I'm still going to stand for you. Lord, I'm still going to be faithful in what you called me to. Lord, I'm going to keep pressing on. And then maybe what happened is someone came on and they began to tarnish his character. They began to speak down on him. They began to make him into someone who he's completely not to. And that's begun to weigh him down as well. You don't have to go in order, just someone come up. And it began to weigh him down. And so before you even know it, he's going through life. He's saying, I'm standing for what's right. Lord, I want to be used, but I'm also carrying what's been said. I'm carrying my loss. I'm carrying what's been said, but I'm also, now, I'm so sad. I'm struggling with depression now because I thought it was going to get better. I know I'm going to see him later, but it's just been so heavy to carry. And I'm starting to get anxious all of a sudden because I'm just not sure. The Bible says that he gives me peace, but everywhere I look, it's like, what do I do? What's the decision to make it? And I'm just continually getting weighed more and more. And he's saying, but I'm still standing. I'm still standing. I'm doing what God called me to do, but he hasn't dealt with the weight he's been carrying. And as it's been instance after instance, people have talked bad. He's been betrayed. He's been backstabbed. He's been struggling with lust. He's been struggling with fear. He's saying, God, what do I do? God, what do I do? It's getting heavier. It's getting heavier. And no matter how I try, no matter how I think, I don't know if I can carry on. And what's happening is we're seeing young people just like Preston. They've heard about the Lord, but they've just been weighed down. And before they know it, they've been carrying the weight. They don't know what to do with the weight. And maybe it's you in the church, and they stop standing. And you say, hey, I'm going to do it my way. Listen, I could talk to someone about it, but then they might judge me. I could go before them and I could say, hey, this is all the things I'm struggling with. I know I'm supposed to stand up for what's right with God, but I'm so weighed down. I try my hardest and I still can't get up. I still can't get up. I don't know what the answer is. But the reality is Jesus is faithful. In those 3 days, I'm convinced Esther sought the Lord and she said, this weight's heavy. She said, Lord, I don't know how I can do it. Lord, I don't know how me. And he said, I'm faithful. And as she began to surrender to Jesus, Jesus began to empty the load. Because can I tell you, church, the weight isn't for you to carry. Can I tell you, church, God's calling us to stand, but he's not expecting it to be on our own ability or what we think we can do. The Bible says, in Psalms 55:22, cast your burden on the Lord and he'll sustain you. He'll never permit the righteous to be moved. And so it takes us to come to a point of surrender, just like Preston said, Jesus. And he begins to just empty it out of us. Like Zeke was saying, seek the Lord and ask him, what's in me that's getting in the way? What's in me that's weighing me down so that way I can't be used? Thank you guys. You guys can go ahead. Give them a round of applause. Good job. But you see, he's asked us to stand. In Ephesians 6:13, it says this. This is why you must take up the full armor of God, so that way you may be able to resist in the evil day. And having prepared everything, take your stand. And in verse 14, it begins with, stand therefore. Stand therefore. Putting on the full armor of God. We do that by reading his word. We do that by getting in God's presence. We do that by spending time with him. And I want to point out, it says put on the full armor of God, not the full armor from God. So it's not something you're just borrowing for some bad situation. It's something you're walking in with him. So when we're wearing his armor, it's as if he's right with us and he's going to fight our battles with us. In Romans, it says this, because I want you to understand the devil's a defeated foe, but it requires us to take action and walk in faith. It says in Romans 8:37, no, in all these things we are more than victorious through him who loved us. So today, I want to point this up as I wrap up. If you're hearing this and you're willing to take a stand, I want you to recognize that clearly God wants to do it through you and in you, and he's not expecting you to do it by yourself. God wants to be the one who equips you out of the abundance of the time you spend, the relationship you have. It will flow out of you effortlessly because it's coming from the inside out. The Holy Spirit's already within you, so you're already halfway there. But now you got to take your faith in, not in the weights you've been carrying, but in who God is and what he said. And he's saying today, there's such a time as this that every one of us in this room has been called to make a difference. The time to be on the bench is over. We're in the fourth quarter. And listen, if we don't do something now, we can't expect anything to change. If the team is down and no one goes for a point, don't expect a point to magically appear. No, the coach put you in for this time because he knows what you have. So today, this is how I want to end. You guys can stand. Maybe you're hearing about a Jesus and a God who isn't satisfied with you carrying weight. He's not satisfied with you feeling like it's all up to you to do it on your own. He's not satisfied with you feeling like you're all alone. No, he'll never leave us or forsake us. And this God, he came down and he sent his son to pay the price for you so that way you can have relationship. Because if it wasn't for what Jesus did, man, we'd be in a bad situation with no hope to get out. But he knew the mistake you'd make, and he said, I'm gonna pay for it because I know they never can. It required a blood sacrifice, and Jesus said, you know what? I haven't done any wrong in my life, but I'm willing to pay the price because I love you that much. I want you in eternity. I want you in relationship. So today, with no one looking around, with every head bowed, every eyes closed, if you're hearing about a Jesus that's asking you to stand, a Jesus that wants you to begin to fight back whatever you're facing, a Jesus that wants relationship with you, if that's you today and you want to accept the Lord into your heart and maybe rededicate your life, if that's you, will you just raise your hand with no one looking? Thank you, Lord. The rest of us, maybe we're like Preston. Maybe some of us, we've been walking, but man, this weight's hard to carry. And we've been feeling like, how do I have my breakthrough? How do I stop walking with this weight on my back? Can I tell you, Jesus wants to deal with that today? So today, if that's you, you feel like you need breakthrough. You need freedom in that area in your life. I'm gonna ask the prayer team to come up. And if that's you, we wanna pray with you. We wanna pray through with you. The Bible says anything we ask in Jesus' name, believing, we will receive. So if there's a stronghold we're facing, if we ask for a breakthrough in Jesus' name, we will receive it. Satan cannot stand where Jesus is. So if that's you, I wanna invite you to come down. Then everyone, I just wanna pray for you. So if you can just lift your hands. Father God, we just thank you, Lord. Father God, we thank you for this word. Lord, we thank you for this encouragement that you want to use us. So Lord, I lift up every person in this room, every person under the sound of my voice. And Lord, I just declare boldness and confidence in Jesus' name for them to walk on assignment for you. Lord, I thank you, Father God, they're gonna come encounter with people this week. And Lord, they're gonna step out and speak up to make a difference in their life. Lord, I thank you, you're gonna put a burden on our hearts for the lost. Lord, you're gonna put a burden on our hearts for our friends and family who need to hear your truth. Lord, use us in the name of Jesus. Amen. I'm gonna have Becca sing.